Moving on to our penultimate session, of late we have seen many brands, be it Google, Samsung, Procter & Gamble or even Samsonite India, for its recent campaign Kerala is Open, proving this again. Sharing his thoughts on the topic, the emotional journey of creating customer engagement through content is Mr. Prasanth Kumar, or PK as he is fondly known, the CEO of South Asia, Middle East and Africa, Mindshare. We couldn't have asked for a better person than our speaker, as remember, he is one of the people behind the inspiring Brook Bond Red Label Six-Pack band, India's first transgender band which won the Glass Lion Grand Prix at Cannes 2016. Please put your hands together for Mr. Prasanth Kumar.
You have a clicker? Must be loaded, right? Okay, cool. Good evening, everyone. Quite an engaging time from 2 o'clock the afternoon onwards. And good evening, Bangalore. This is obviously one of my favorite city, and being a Bangalore boy for some time, it's always good to meet old friends and also try and engage with you. And given the topic, connecting with distracted consumer, I think I'm dealing with many multiple problems. One is the goldfish attention span. It's already late by an hour. There's probably some beer waiting. So I'm not sure how much of attention I'm going to have from each one of you. But what I thought I will do today is to share with you some of the cases, some of the perspective which we actually put it to some of our brands to actually connect with the distracted consumer, as well as also share with you some of the perspective which we apply to some of these brands while we really try and tackle the emotional connect with getting the attention from the consumer. And speaking about attention, I would like to share with you, one of the professors in the Harvard University, Professor Thales, actually did research, and what he came out with an insight is, imagine if attention was an industry, an economy, right? And if you look at that versus building a business and economy using talent and using infrastructure and multiple other aspects like raw materials, etc., the price that probably that economy has grown is 7x in the last 25 years, which essentially means that the premiumness of getting attention from consumers has only grown, and it's probably grown even more than any of the other aspects in building the entire brand as well as a good business for the brand. We spoke about this some time ago in the earlier session, that about the 9 seconds and the 8 seconds attention span. Fundamentally, as lots of experience people actually shared with all of us just before this, as well as during all the sessions today, there is an increasing multitasking happening, and therefore there is an increase in distraction. And what is more interesting is our window in what we do, which is essentially in actually getting more relevance to the what we try and connect to the consumer, is actually becoming more difficult. If you actually look at this slide, there is for a millennial, the ad attention span is about 6 seconds, and if we look at from the same on a print, it's about 2 seconds. But what's more interesting is even our brain actually works in 0.3 seconds to decide whether it is relevant to the consumer or not. So that is what we are dealing with, the kind of challenges from connecting to the distracted consumer. And therefore, while we spoke about the increasing multitasking, actually it's a myth. And the myth is that probably a human brain is not probably capable of doing multitasking. In fact, it works on one task to the other task. So it's switch tasks. So it's not probably the challenge is not to look at how to track multitasking, but how to look at how to probably handle the switch tasking aspect from a consumer. And therefore, how do we delay the switch tasking is essentially what we could probably look at tackling in terms of connecting emotionally with the consumers and getting that right attention for each of the communication that we're doing with them. And therefore, what is the role of that emotion, right? So what I will do in the next few minutes is to share some of the cases, some of the brands which have actually tried to take it. And as we heard the panel also speak, there are multiple ways we can get attention, we can actually connect with the consumers. I'll probably focus on four ways in which we have tackled and want to share with you some of those brands, how they've tackled it. In fact, what is also interesting is getting attention is probably there are multiple ways, as I said earlier. It could be even by shouting, and it could be even by engaging or exposing consumer to lot amount of GRPs, a lot amount of ads, more frequency, but connecting with them is a slightly more art, and the way many brands have probably tried it, and some of the cases will actually explain them. So the first one is to try and be authentic. And on this topic of, when we try and see how we can be authentic to treat or the communication in order to connect with the consumer, it is probably for each brand when they have a lot more clarity on the heart and soul of the communication in the brand, as well as when they try and do consistently how they treat that communication. It helps them to get the attention of the consumer better. What is also probably important here is how to be adaptive and contemporary. And on that, let me share a case which we did on Red Label tea. And that Red Label tea has always stood for breaking the barriers along with a cup of tea.
Is a byproduct of societal living. As a part of the unstereotype agenda of Unilever and the brand promise of Brook-Bond Red Label tea to break barriers, the Six-Pack band was born in 2016. In the first season, using music as pop culture for the cause of transgenders, the band received overwhelming support at the home turf as well as the highest international accolades, winning the Cannes Glass Grand Prix. Carrying the unstereotype crusade forward, in the second season, Mindshare and Y4M decided to take up a cause as pertinent and critical as that of season 1. The cause of intolerance towards mental health needs. 20% of the world's population is in need of mental health care. Yet, the society turns a blind eye. People with special needs are ostracized, ridiculed, and kept at bay. Six-Pack, in its second season, used pop culture yet again, using music to change stereotypes, this time for inclusion of people with special needs into mainstream society. The campaign will see 6 music videos with 6 special kids as band members, wherein each song has a message to give, has a story to tell. 2 out of the 6 songs have been rolled out so far, kick-started by Bollywood's most celebrated producer-director Karan Johar. The first song, Jhakar Pakar, is all about celebrating life from the lens of the differently abled. The second song is a popular remake of a Bollywood cult film, Dil To Pagal Hai. It brings to the fore how society labels people with special needs as pagal or mad. The song is flipped on its head and states that if being pure of heart is considered crazy, but we all need to celebrate that madness.
So that was one example what actually we try to do for Red Label. The other example, we spoke about being adaptive. And one of the other opportunities, being adaptive is to obviously look at some of the triggers, some of the moments which actually gives us the opportunity to leverage some of them to connect back into what you really stand for. And one of such examples, of course, we all know cricket is obviously a lot more attention span comes in, not just 8 seconds, right? We used that opportunity recently with the aspect of rivalry and a context of breaking a barrier, while especially rivalry from India-Pakistan, angle. Let's play the next video. You'll have it there.
We live in a time where discrimination is about
Yeah.
22 years ago, two fierce rival countries tried to knock each other out of the World Cup. Tempers soared as India-Pakistan collided on the cricket field. But one battle stood out. Amir Sohail and Venkatesh Prasad etched their names in the history of cricket in just two deliveries. Even today, fans recite how Sohail smashed one to the boundary and warned Prasad. The bowler retaliated by knocking his off stump and directing him to the pavilion.
That's the best way you can answer a batsman. Venkatesh Prasad has clean bowled Amir Sohail.
22 years later, Group Red Label thought it was time to bury the hatchet. On 19th September 2018, the stage was set once again. The adrenaline was pumping and blood rushing. India-Pakistan were to meet in the Asia Cup. We took this opportunity to not only get them together, but also bring two countries closer over a different country.
For the very first time on television, by Brookborn Red Label Swad, Apnepan Ka, Amir Sohail and Venkatesh Prasad.
Javed actually taught us over the years when a bowler is troubling you, just थोड़ा सा करो ताकि उसको थोड़ा सा उसका focus तोड़ो.
But how beautiful is it that you come back together over a cup of tea? How has that meeting been?
Sweet. We initiated an epic reunion with Star Sports. Before the game, the two stalwarts sat down for a live chat. We previously teased the audiences, while Star Sports promoted this via social media. The two former rivals sipped on Woodbourne Red Label tea while reliving the incident. What followed was epic. Massive waves of conversations picked the cafe. It ensured talkability and high decibels of it. The entire cricketing fraternity shared and opined about the magic reunion, while news channels and publications picked up the story organically. No matter how intense the rivalry, the campaign showed that common ground is just a cup of Brookborn tea away.
So what is interesting here is, you got to keep doing this. You got to consistently, figure out to bring the authenticity of what you stand for. And they can actually come from a very well thought through opportunity, or they can come from some of the fluid moments. And the task is to really keep on exploring what is that moment which really can be leveraged. But at the same time, when we are about authentic aspect, what is also important is that the brand memorability, when you treat this, is extremely key. So therefore branding certainly matters. And in a very, emotional aspect of trying to capture the attention of the consumer, how do you treat that branding aspect is also very important. And that's something which is quite relevant in our role of how we treat that content also. Okay, the second one is what I want to share with you is how do we be surprising when you actually communicate the consumer, therefore there is an emotional connect. And when we talk about surprising, it's not just about negating boredom, because we all know that boredom is probably one reason why most of the relationships break down, and it's certainly not any different between a brand and a consumer. And what is important also is not just do a one-off high impact and therefore create some surprise. We have seen many brands doing that, but the longevity actually reduces, right? Also, what is critical is, some of the surprises, especially when it is going against the popular disbeliefs or popular beliefs rather, and it is about the category which suddenly stands as quite a surprising element. It has more power to get the consumer attention. And the example which I want to share with you is about a very bold, movement, a bold act which the Star Network did. And in the entire main source perspective, it was not a tagline, it was not a branding alone. It is actually a philosophy in which it stood for the product and the entire marketing of the overall network. Let's see, I'm sure the video will speak what it did. But again, there was a part of consistency in it.
उसका खुद का नाम ऊपर जाता है.
The challenge for Star Plus brand refresh was to build relevance by challenging stereotypes which exist in the popular culture.
In the name of religion, he wants to justify women being treated like this.
We crafted Nayi Soch, which was all about liberating the women, defying the old ways that bound them through societal pressure and age-old beliefs. The Nayi Soch campaign stunned India. Content formed the bedrock of our strategy to tap into cultural moments and challenge age-old belief systems.
सर ये आपकी टी-शर्ट पे देवकी मेरी माँ का नाम है. कोई खास वजह? मैं इतने साल से अपने पिता का नाम पहन रहा था, तब तो आपने कभी नहीं पूछा कि कोई खास वजह.
मैं जितना कोहली हूँ उतना सरोज भी है कि नहीं?
Special day today because you're wearing shirts with your mother's name on it for the first time.
I think it's a brilliant initiative. It's just that the mother's contribution often we don't appreciate it the same way that we have to. So it's good that it's being put in a public platform. But what's important is to get up every day and thank them for what they have been doing.
The campaign was also taken to print. We created a social media disruption. Nayi Soch gripped for Twitterati and celebrities alike. We followed this up with the hashtag #MainWhoNayiSoch video and asked people to share their pledge. We institutionalized the Nayi Soch Award at the Star Screen Awards, and it was given to Alia Bhatt for her progressive portrayals of women in films. On Women's Day, we shifted the focus from mothers to daughters with the And Daughters film.
मेरी बेटी बेटों के बराबर है, बेटों के बराबर नहीं, बेटों से बेटर है.
Our responsibility is towards our sons. It's to show our sons how to respect women.
Ever since independence, that the girls are equal to boys. I would say that.
I don't see any difference in gender. Actually, I think they're the same.
Swara Bhaskar narrated real-life stories of women who have demonstrated Nayi Soch.
और तुम सही हो तो दुनिया चाहे कुछ भी बोले उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता. इस नई सोच के साथ जीना आ गया.
So, in such examples, when you really see someone who's actually bringing that element of surprise, especially what the category stands for, it also allows the consumer to reassess about the category and the brand. And it also allows to have the journey of, how do we connect with the philosophy that we stand for, and even from the context of, whether it's a category or, within a network. Again, on this, what essentially matters when you try to bring in surprises, especially from an emotional angle, it also is important to treat the balance of having a surprise from a rational angle. So just like how we look at from a branding perspective, which we just shared earlier, bringing that balance matters when we treat in these contexts. The third one is about personalization, right? And even actually many people, these are all things which we also know about, but given the context right now, which is we're dealing with GDPR and multiple commissions and etc., it's probably one of the debatable topics. However, we can't deny the fact that when consumers are are dealt with personalized communication. It helps the entire connect with them. To understand who is the consumer, what do they like, where are they, when do we reach them. All of this is part of that. And the case which I will share here is about Nike, and we all know that Nike connects personally with consumers. Whether it is a Nike ID or any of the fitness app, right? It connects with consumers, and it's no different in this video which we are sharing with you. The next video, please. Yeah, so even in the context here, what also matters is how do we continue to motivate the consumer, right? And therefore, what really matters is the action. And perhaps in such cases where we really try to personalize, it is about a task of consistently talking to the consumer with multiple right stories and right concepts which attracts and being relevant and bringing the entire context of motivation. The fourth one is something which again got spoken in the earlier panel. We all know that this is something which if you look at some of the top global companies, there is Unilever or P&G. They also stand quite completely aligned on the fact of brands that are committing to a purpose, and they stand for a purpose. And they bring in the context of again clearly contributing to what a purpose can be, right? And from this context, there are two videos cases which I'm going to share, and both of them happen to be Dove. We all know that Dove stands for celebrating inner beauty, and especially in a country like ours where there are obviously different notions about inner beauty. Bringing that in a story, bringing that context of connecting with consumer is also to do with how we tackle that the entire aspect of inner beauty as well as some of the opportunities which we get as fluid moments, and the first video is all talking about that.
Chubby cheeks, dimple chin, rosy lips, teeth within, curly hair, very fair, eyes are blue, lovely too.
No.
Here the context was, this was actually created during the recent Olympics, and that's why you have all the sportswomen there. And it was therefore again quite important to look at the context. And the next video, it is actually even further when Dow actually went on to create a revolution, a momentum. And it got even more brands to actually participate in it. Let's see the video and you will get it, I'm sure.
We must set the world on a new course.
As an industry, we play a part in gender presentations in the media. When we use images that don't reflect society, images that portrays women as objects, we dictate unrealistic ideals. When 68% of all women can't identify themselves with the images they see in advertising, it's time for change. By hacking the industry from the inside, we can hack women's self-image. This is Image Hack. When you do a search for a beautiful woman on stock sites, you get this, where in fact you should get this. We decided to change that. We found a backdoor to one of the biggest stock sites in the world that allowed us to upload any image we wanted to and tag it however we wanted to. That made us able to completely change certain search results like beautiful woman or real woman to whatever we wanted. So we advertising photographers and created a large amount of non-stereotypical pictures of women and then uploaded them to the site. This made us able to change the search results a user would get, turning pictures like this into this. Soon photographers from all over the world joined the cause. And within weeks, thousands of new non-stereotypical pictures were uploaded to the site and completely changed the content on the site. But the job was still not done. We needed other brands to join the mission too. So we ran ads that targeted advertisers and agencies, where we encouraged them to take part of the change. We supported the ads with segmented outdoor nearby creative agencies, and even got inside the biggest media agency group in Denmark with our message. And then, this happened. Advertisers and agencies from all over the country joined the initiative by running ads using our pictures, and soon our pictures were everywhere. That is how we were able to completely change the media landscape and have any brand that used our pictures become an ambassador for our message.
Yeah, so, the context really matters, and I think the cases really will communicate that. So I'm not spending more time on that point. Actually, when we've spoken about the creativity aspect of treating this emotion, and my colleague Maps and me, we were discussing about the context that, it is not just the creativity, it's the triggers or it is the insights and the data that actually power stories. And what we do is we actually look at multiple data to understand, get insights of what are the consumer taste, what do they watch, what are their likes, what are the dislikes, because this becomes therefore a kind of a recipe to prepare what is that you would like to communicate, right? And we all know that, most of the data is today probably sitting at multiple sources. And therefore at GroupM we have something called as M platform, where it is where the destination where we have currently about 200 million plus data points, where they collected and we study the cohort, we get deeper understanding about the consumer, we study the likes, and therefore it helps us in customizing the treatment as well as the communication. Not only that, it also helps in targeting them. And we're sure that if some of these are actually put into right application, then we can keep the distraction away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar, for that wonderful session. May I please request Mr. Arpan Chatterjee, COO Digital at Deccan Herald, to please come present Mr. Prasanth Kumar with a memento from our side. Thank you once again.